Let's light up the night, looking down the edge of forever. So stop me or take my advice.
There he is.
Hey.
So that was a big bowl of technical difficulties.
Yeah, that's a new one.
It was like every little thing that could. Oh, so what are the chances both of my computers needed a reboot? Not one, but both of them.
Oh, I know. And I had to reset like twice.
Yep. And then we had a problem with our guest and his equipment, and people have no idea what it takes and the amount of stress it takes to put on a live show. So we definitely hope they appreciate it, because it's crazy sometimes. Oh. Sometimes it does go smooth, right?
Yeah, occasionally.
Yeah.
On accident.
Oh, on accident. Yeah, that's probably it. Well, if you think about it, really, you can't control so many aspects of technology. It's gotten so complicated, you know?
Yeah. One little thing can go wrong and nothing works.
Yep. And then, of course, we've just, I don't know how this new winter storm is treating you. Well, we just got done with one. We got our driveway, worked all day getting the driveway finally clean. We literally have a 12-foot snow in our front now. It's 12 foot high.
12 feet.
Foot. So you get all this cleaned out, and then, of course, the city comes and fills it back up with a 5-foot wall of concrete.
5
Probably
foot
about
wall of concrete.
6 feet thick, 5 foot high of solid, just melted snow, ice. No way to shovel it. You'd be looking at 5-6 hours to get through it.
6 hours.
And then, of course, you call the plow guy, and he's like, well, I got 1,300 people in ahead of you. And you're like, okay, goodbye.
Thanks for helping.
And then you call the city to bitch and complain, which we did. And, of course, all you get is a recording.
Of course.
Yeah.
Just a recording.
It's just, life can be crazy. So anyhow, what do we got going on today? We've got super nice guy Darrell Denton on tonight. Researcher, witnesser, experiencer, guy that obviously was traumatized when he was younger. From what they call the wood booger. Have you ever heard that term, Alex?
That's the first time ever hearing that.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, boogers have been used, that's been a common name for Sasquatch or Bigfoots for centuries.
So you're familiar with the term?
Oh yeah, God, yes. Yep, and I would imagine that we'll get a lot of cool details out of Darrell. We'll have plenty of time. Okay, I was going to mention one really happy thing that made me happy was how happy Joe was. I got to tell this story because he was telling me about this bike he owned when he was a kid. You can just see that his eyes were just sparkling and his voice got a little bit more racy. And he was just telling me about that. So I went online and I'm looking for that bike that he's describing. Figuring I can get him a beat up one that's got rust on it and old. I find one, I swear to God, new in the box.
New in the box.
New in the box. And so you tried to arrange, remember? That we couldn't get a hold of the guy and blah, blah,
yeah, of course.
So it went on and on and on, and I'm like, God, we can't lose this bike. We can't lose this bike. It was a gift, surprise for Joe. And Joe's worked with us so much. Alex calls him Uncle Joe.
Yeah, or Uncle Joey.
Uncle Joey. Uncle Joey. Uncle Joey. Joey's Italian. Uncle Joey. So anyhow, long story short, he got the bike, got it together, and he called me up and he was just giddy, man. He was giddy. So it was kind of a belated holiday gift. Something like that. You don't know what to get you. I got him a damn shirt for Christmas this year. Yeah, I picked him a really nice shirt, know.
Yeah.
But it was it's just a damn shirt. It's nothing special, You don't even know when you buy somebody clothing or whatever, you figure, well, maybe they'll wear it, maybe they won't, maybe it'll fit, maybe it won't, whatever. Maybe you'll like the color, maybe you won't. But this, oh my God, it was so cool when you can give somebody something they love. Can you throw that up?
Yeah.
I sent you the photos. So this thing is brand spanking new, and it's a reissue. that they did, I think, in 2007 on this. But this is the exact bike. It's called a Schwinn Crate. It's got the little tire in the front. I suppose supposed to emulate a chopper. It's got a slick in the back, Springer fork in the front, and of course high-rise handlebars. And he just wants it to just, when you get to my age, you're just like looking at this crap.
It's got a
He's
lot
never
of
going to
sentimental
ride this
value.
thing. He just wants to like hang it on his wall in his garage, and it just makes him happy looking at it. So it's cool, very cool. So that's it. The gift of one of those rare gifts you can give. But the chance of me finding that still, I'm sorry. I could look for the next 10 years. I'll never find one.
Oh, and that thing looks mint.
Oh, it's brand new. It's in the box. It's already, it's a reissue of a 1970s bike.
Wow.
Which was a limited. Now I think they only made 500 of them. A limited, they retooled it. No doubt in China. I'm sure all the Schwinn experts are going to jump on me. Yeah, in China. Sure it was reissued in China. Schwinn obviously isn't the quality it was back when they were in Chicago and building them here in the U.S.
Yeah.
But I'm sure banana seat bikes remind a lot of boys, my age, in that age range, like, oh, yeah, everybody had one. You didn't have a Stingray bike.
No, I didn't. I had some crap probably wheeled home from Walmart.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. It was definitely a stick with stickers on it, stickers all over it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That was funny. So anyhow, it definitely gave me joy giving that to him. And that is truly the meaning of Christmas. If you can find something that somebody really would go nuts on, and he did.
Well, he just looked cool.
Yeah. Speaking of nuts, the coyote population's going completely nuts. I hear them outside, the studio sometimes at night. They get on the lake and they're yipping and yapping and doing all their cold, especially when it's really cold. I think they're hunting in groups. So the coyote population, and I didn't know this. I looked it up. I was curious. What is it today in the U.S.? And I really couldn't get an answer. So I could only go by state. So I looked up Kansas. Kansas has got roughly 300K. And damn well they're lying. If they say 300K coyotes, they got 400 to 500, 600K.
You think it could be as high as 600?
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, yes. I'll bet you I have 300K in my backyard.
Do you think they're afraid? Or they're worried people will get scared? And
It's just a whole rash of stuff. They'll get pressured to open a whole division. Anyhow, but the point I'm trying to make is the more they try to get rid of these things, they just breed more. So if you take a pack of coyotes, say there's 20 animals in a pack, and you kill off 5 of them, she's going to get, the alpha female is going to get pregnant. So you kill 5, she's going to have 20. So it's like a monster. It's actually like a monster. The more you kill them, the more you're going to have, not the less. And so once in a while you'll hear, they blame it. It's like, one of the population's way up since 1980. And they claim it was the crash of the fur industry, that caused the coyote population. That's BS. I don't think coyotes were a big fur coat thing to begin with. Let's see here. So in 1980, I'm looking here at my notes. Yeah, my notes, by the way, are a mile long still. I got to get you over here. It's like this, trying to read. 1980, the population is up 3-fold since 1980. I think that's a BS too. I think it's up 20-fold since 1980.
20-fold.
20-fold since then. In 1980, the coyotes, there weren't that many of them, I never saw one when I was a kid. I lived in the woods. Never once saw a coyote. Now, if you want to see a coyote, you can see him anytime you want. I'll guarantee you have probably 5 coyotes run through your yard every night, Alex.
Yeah, probably that
Yep.
many.
They're just sneaky. They're quiet. Generally, they're pretty quiet. So let's just say in Kansas, there's 300. I'm saying 500. I mean, that puts, between 20 million and 100 million coyotes in the U.S. That's a lot of coyotes.
That's a ton.
It's one coyote for every man. Every grown man has got his own coyote out there. So anyhow, but there was a funny video I sent you. I thought it was humorous. Clip A. Yeah, this was funny. Could you imagine you coming out, go to work, you're in the suburbs, and this guy's deciding to perch on your car. And you can see he didn't give a crap.
No.
He doesn't care. You probably, whoever came out, eventually, that coyote might have been sitting there, probably didn't move. They probably just shoo it away. I mean, to them, a high spot is a high spot. I thought that was pretty humorous. But it was that piece of footage that kind of signifies what's going on in the whole country. There was one expert I heard that literally said coyotes are going to be a threat to our national security. And I went, whoa.
I mean, when you see this, you can believe it.
And I went, our national security. But then I thought, yeah, if you try to kill 100 and you end up with 200 more than you had before, yeah, it could be a problem. And they're already a problem, like in cities, New York, Chicago, big cities. There's even proof now that they're waiting at stoplights for the lights to turn green before they cross.
Waiting at stoplights.
Yep. So it says they're being seen in more heavily populated areas. They're adapting super well. It says one of the things that allowed coyotes to be so successful is that they're adaptable, which obviously, it's pretty obvious. Once again, I can't read my long message. It says we typically think of coyotes as predators, whereas they are really omnivores. And that's true. They're omnivores. Okay. Interesting. So obviously an omnivore, they're going to eat everything, bugs, plants, fruit, veggies, corn, rabbits. I mean, you name it, they're going to eat it. So anyhow, enough of that. I'll bet you, Alex, have never even seen a coyote.
Oh, I've seen one now.
No, I know.
In person.
It's weird. I do talk to some people who've never seen any. I see probably, I don't know, numbers of them per month.
I've never seen one in the wild.
Oh, God, they're everywhere. They're thick. So, all right, you can get rid of that clip. We're sick of looking at that dude. So should we jump right into some stuff?
Yeah.
Some Doug's videos?
Let's do it.
So ever heard of a dick?
What is a dick?
It's an animal called the dick. You've never heard of one? You haven't? I'll put it up. It's really cool. They're a tiny little antelope. Yep, she's going to introduce the dick. Of course, they're playing up the sexual innuendos here.
What?
That is a full-grown antelope.
Oh my gosh.
She's excited about the little dick.
How big are they? Are they tiny?
13 pounds, maybe at the heaviest. That would be at the heaviest. But that's like I said, that's the most they can weigh. I would imagine most of them are half of that, 5 pounds. That's so pretty small for an ungulate. They are cute. All right. So, did you ever think about when you were a baby, Alex? Could you see Like you're in the womb. Do you think you saw anything, or do you think it's just black in there? What's everybody's guess?
I have no memory. Do you? Can you recall anything?
Well, I don't have any memory, but what do you think babies see? Do you think it's? I mean, just think about it. Skin. They have, women wear clothing. So you have skin, you have the placenta, you've got amniotic fluid, all these layers of things. Do you think a baby can?
Maybe it just feels like they're in a hot tub.
But I mean, what can they see though? What do you think they can see? That's my question to you.
Are babies
You think
blind?
just jet black in there?
Yeah, it's probably.
Well, they have now determined that you could read a book in there.
You can.
But yeah, even just moderate light. So go ahead and play clip 2. And the guy's going to talk a little bit. We're not going to listen to him. But they're going to show, there's another experiment I'll talk about too that they've done. Yeah, he's not a baby in a womb. It's coming. Wait for it. I think there it is. That's normally what they would see, that pink glow. But they claim on a sunny day it's bright enough to read a book in there.
Okay. The sunlight can pass through the skin.
Yep. And I know your dirty mind, Alex, is thinking light's coming in from the bottom somehow. No. No. But anyhow, so then they did this test. You see that? They would ignore that shape, but if they did the 2 eyes and the mouth, in other words, 3 dots inverted, the babies paid attention to it and watched it.
Wow.
So they would shine like lasers on the stomach.
Yeah, and they would actually look at it.
And if they do it in a facial pattern, they recognized it and followed it with their eyes and looked at it.
So are they like
You can get rid of that
tracking the
guy.
baby
Okay,
with like
okay,
all?
okay.
Oh,
Get rid of that clip.
Get rid of him.
Thank you. Gosh. So it wasn't really a favorite clip. It was something I not really had thought of. And I don't think most people think of it. That's what I enjoy talking about on Untold Radio.
The untold.
Because
thing.
you know your sister's going to have a baby in 1 month.
That's incredible.
So I'm going to send that video to her. Because I doubt you just don't think about that.
Yeah.
So anyhow. Let's see here. Okay. Tall people, really tall. Like we think of Bigfoot, 8 foot. Some people name 9 foot, 10 foot. Well, the next is supposedly, it's unverified. This is the tallest man in the world right now. At 9'6". So think about that.
And
9'6", and it's clip 3, I guess. I think. Yep, here he comes. But it's unverified. Could be fake news even. I think it's real. I mean, there's a lot of photos of him. I researched it.
So is he supposedly still alive?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's like I said, he beats the old record by 15 inches. The old one was, I think it was Wadlow, I remember. And Robert Pershing Wadlow, he was only 8'11", 8'11.1".
You imagine?
So this guy shatters him. I mean, he just shatters him by 15 inches. But it is a form of gigantism that they get.
Yeah, is it like a mutation?
Related to the thyroid gland. It's bad. You think they could shut that off? These growth hormones.
Yeah, it doesn't look
crazy.
comfortable.
No, it doesn't look too fun. Doesn't look fun anyhow. So that's the whole thing. And see here if I got any interesting facts. Robert Wadlow was born in Alton, Illinois in 1918. And he was measured officially at 8'11.1". And there's now another guy that holds the official record for the tallest living guy, and he's 8'3", and he lives in Russia. But this guy, apparently nobody knew about him. So he needs to be measured officially, because the clinic's like, well, we don't have any way to measure him. The clinic, I mean, this is somewhere in Africa. Guyana. Yeah, Guyana, Africa. So, anyhow, there we go. You ever heard of a murder bird?
No. What is a murder bird? Is this
A
something
murder
dangerous?
bird is this bird that you're going to play a clip for. And I don't know if it got its name from its scream that it makes. You should be able to play the audio here. Sounds pretty fierce, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But apparently there's a whole bunch of these birds they call murder birds because they take their prey and they impale it on thorns. So they'll grab a skink and they'll impale it on a horn, kind of like Count Dracula did. Vlad the Impaler. All right, that's enough of that, dude. What's a murder bird? Looks like a roadrunner to me.
A pissed off roadrunner.
Yeah, there you said it. Good choice of words. This is an adult show, I think. Just kidding. Okay. Yeah, can you imagine finding a bunch of thorns with little, like, rodents and things impaled on it? It's kind of weird. Anyhow.
Vicious.
Yep. Okay, so clip 5, this little cute little thing couldn't murder anything, and it's like the opposite. It's the cutest, tiniest little primate. This is the world's smallest monkey. It is the pygmy marmoset. And I dated a girl who had one of these, and her mother sat on it and killed it. The day I picked her up for our first date.
Oh, no.
Her mother had killed her baby little pygmy marmoset that she was so excited to own.
Looks like a little Chewbacca.
But that's a primate, just like us.
And how did she get a hold of one of those?
I bought it. I don't know. I bought a New World monkey once. So this is a New World monkey, comes from South America.
How do you buy a monkey?
This one's from the Amazon basin. What? How do you buy one?
Yeah, how do you buy a monkey?
Well, nowadays you'd probably go to the dark web. I don't know if you know. Back in the old days, you look in the back of a comic book or something. That's where you bought monkeys. The backs of comic books, I swear to God. I bought a squirrel monkey I had for quite a while. Finally, I had to get rid of it because I was just couldn't handle him anymore. He was just getting too out of control.
You could like put that on your keychain.
And then the new people that bought this squirrel monkey from me literally called me and said, what do we do? They were in a panic. They're like, the monkey's riding on the dog, stole my boyfriend's cigar, and is trying to set the curtains on fire. And I went, have fun. Knock yourself out. Yeah, my monkey's name was Nicky.
Nicky.
Yeah, little Nicky. He was something, I'll tell you. Yeah. It was just on the list, of things High-Check had to do.
Yeah.
Don't you have a list, Alex, of all these things you want to do, and you just do them? I want to own a restaurant. Okay, ching, can get that one out of the way.
Well, I know what I want for Christmas next year.
Okay, put it on your list. But you got to take care of your own bucket list.
Yeah.
No one bought me my monkey.
I know, but I want someone to buy my monkey.
You want someone to buy your monkey? It ain't going to happen. So anyhow, that's a South pygmy marmoset, South American. All right. So the next one could murder you, right? This thing could really, it could murder you if you're even in your SUV. Really? This thing just oh my God, the strength of this thing. In fact, they tell people that visit this area, and by the way, Bill Devlin's there right now in the jungles of Thailand.
What is he doing in Thailand?
Anyhow, he sends me updates every day. I get all these cool pictures. But anyhow, so this thing, just don't put it up yet. It is called it's an Indian gore. They call it the gore. That's the name of it, the gore. They always tell people, if you just see this, if you have a family there and you raise your kids, and you see it, you just run. Even though you probably can't even outrun it. You just try to run. That's all you can do. It's so powerful. Go ahead. Play clip 6. This is a gore. That's just a form of a wild cow, basically, or an ox.
It's like getting hit with a T-Rex.
Yeah. This guy is describing what they teach you when you're young living in this area. Like, you just run. So, okay, enough. Squirrel suits. I know you really want to do. I know that's on your bucket list.
Oh,
to don a squirrel suit and jump out of an airplane or jump off a cliff, right?
yeah.
You're the kid that I'd put you on a kiddie car. I'd have to rescue you. I'd have to make a daring rescue because you're not having any of this crap. It's like my dad just stuck me on something that doesn't have brakes, probably hasn't been inspected by the safety commission. I want off now. And you're like 2. Most kids are just sitting there dinging the bell or whatever. You're like, no, I'm getting off this thing now. And I'd have to bail over ride after ride and rescue you. You drop right into my arms.
I'm probably one of your more careful children.
Yes, you were. I never had to worry about you I never had to worry about you putting squirrel suits on and jumping out of airplanes, especially this guy. Check this out, clip 7. So now he's a squirrel suit. It's got some girl sitting on his back. And she's just holding on. Yeah. It's like, yeah, this is what we're doing today. I mean, it looks kind of fun, but if he makes one mistake, she's going to go flying. She's going to flip right off that thing.
I hope that's a parachute, not just a backpack.
No, I see. Maybe she's got I didn't even notice that. Sure, she's probably got
It looks pretty small for a shoe, but I don't know.
It could be. Maybe it's lunch. Maybe she's going to eat lunch.
It's a picnic lunch.
Oh, my God. Okay. Enough of that. So the next item is an item you wouldn't, or an animal you wouldn't think would be murderous, but apparently actually is. I've never feared these creatures. You see a lot of them when you go to Florida. These things run wild all over, in a lot of the southern states, and you don't think of them as being aggressive, but this thing actually looked like it could kill you. So clip 8 is the murderous peacock, or you can call it peacock surprise. So everybody loves eggs, right? And this guy's just going to steal some freaking peacock eggs for breakfast.
Yeah, why not?
The other the female, she's all chill.
Oh, no.
The male's like, I ain't having none of that crap.
You're
not taking my kids. It's no way. And that's just the way it rolls. That looked like quite a hit.
You probably got a concussion.
Oh, he did not see this coming. Okay, enough of that. But yeah, peacocks are normally peaceful. I mean, you're not afraid of peacocks when you go to the zoo, right?
Oh.
Back in the old days, they used to have peacocks roaming like Como Zoo, free everywhere. They never bothered anybody. Never.
Why did they stop? What happened?
I don't. Who knows?
Some kid got bit.
Who knows? Or somebody knows. More likely a kid kicked one, killed it.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. So this next clip, I was thinking about it. This is very dangerous. This is at a zoo. But there is this Asian deer, right, at the zoo. And it's apparently a deer that's from like Mongolia, South Siberia. But it's at a zoo and it's got full antlers. It could take this guy out so easy, but yet you watch its body language and it's just really cool. You got to see this. It's bowing. Clip 9. Let's watch the actions of this. It's literally not threatening him. It's communicating with him.
Wow.
Like, I want your food.
I would be crapping my pants.
Yeah. I mean, the animal could kill you in a second.
Oh, yeah, with those antlers?
They're so sharp. But I just like the bowing. It was cool. Can't win them all, folks. I don't always pick good clips.
I'm loving them. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. Last but not least, okay, is really cool. I think this one is cool. I think this will shock people. So we're going to be showing the most high-res footage from the sun, surface of the sun. But before we show that with your trigger finger, Did you know that when you go out and bask in the sun, which I know you seldom do, Alex, but once in a while you do, right? Not on purpose.
I occasionally leave the house.
No, but I'm not on purpose. But when the sun does hit your body,
Yes.
it's 200,000 years old, that light. Now you think that's crazy. How can it be 200,000 years old? Because light travels really quick, right?
Absolutely.
Because it emanates from the core of the sun. And it takes that long for it to migrate out to the surface, the light, from the core to the surface, and then, of course, to Earth, which I think takes 8 minutes or some crap. It's not that long. I think it's like 8 minutes for sunlight to. Yeah, so it's 200,000 and then 8 minutes. But I want to show this because I got to here. I'm just go ahead and throw that up. Clip 10, I guess. Okay. Ignore him. Maybe you can even pause it when you get to the next cool shot. Yeah, pause that. Okay. That is something that's new that we've just seen from a telescope in Hawaii. These are individual plasma cells. Now, each one of those, now you're looking at that going, oh, that's the surface of a walnut, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But each one of those little granular cells is the size of Texas.
Whoa.
Now, that covers the entire surface of the sun. It's the first time this has been seen in this detail. So I just thought, oh, that's not what I expected. I expected something more gassy.
More gassy.
This looks like, what's that called? Kitty litter? Kitty litter that's been peed on.
Kitty litter
that's been peed on. But so who would think the surface of the sun, when you finally get to see it, looks like kitty litter with pee on it?
Or Cracker Jacks.
Yeah. Caramel corn.
Oh, yeah.
That's it. It's caramel corn. Caramel corn. And it's funny. I ordered another case of Cracker Jacks. A whole case. And I gave you some of them.
You did.
Did you eat them?
I ate some today.
Did you see the crappy prize inside this piece of paper? Did you see it?
I didn't even bother opening it.
No, of course not. But what's their deal?
The food, know.
Other than the fact there's like one peanut in a bag, maybe two. If you're lucky. Look. If you're lucky and you look, you find 2 peanuts in a bag of crack. But the angles are good. Talk about bringing back memories. I literally, for a while there, I was eating 1 bag a night before bed.
Doctor recommended.
Just made me happy. It was just that last thing I could do, kill time before I went to bed. Eat a thing of Cracker Jacks, with a glass of milk or something. Anyhow, all right. So we have Darrell Denton tonight. Darrell started researching Bigfoot after his first encounter in his home state of Tennessee in 1992. That's how many years ago? Great, that's like 30. How long ago is that?
That's a long time.
It's like 30. Yeah, I know. It's scary. 92. It sounds like yesterday to me.
That's dedication.
Which changed his life forever. So it did have a big effect on him, obviously. He's still thinking about it, obviously. His second encounter was around 1999. After his second encounter, he started then researching. Came across Bigfoot several more times, befriended and gifted 2 clans during his research. He researched them until late 2020, until he was followed home by possibly one of these clans. That's kind of freaky.
Yeah.
Says they terrorized him, his farm, and animals. He still researches, but only really occasionally with friends. So he's retired now. So anyhow, well, let's give Darrell Denton a big warm welcome.
Hurrah.
Hurrah.
Hey, Darrell, thanks for hanging in there with us. We had everything go wrong that possibly could tonight.
I appreciate you having me on. After that top 10 list there, you may want to cut it off because it's hard to top that. So,
it wasn't the best one. Anyhow,
I've got
So-
so much light on me here. I may get a suntan before.
Oh my God, yeah, you need more. Hey, you don't know what we go through with light rings and hot lights on us. It takes a lot of light to light you up for a camera.
It definitely does. Yeah.
gotta
But
put
we don't
suntan
want you to
lotion
look
on.
muddy, Darrell. We don't want people thinking.
I probably look better in the dark, but it works. But anyway,
No.
big fan of Doug's for years. I certainly appreciate you having me on. I'm really honored to be here.
Oh well, thank you.
You
I'm
too,
honored
Alex.
to have you.
Don't want to leave you out there, but appreciate you having me on there.
So when did you? So I take it you did watch Monster Quest back in the day.
Oh gosh, never missed it. Even
okay.
watched the reruns for years.
Okay.
And, probably was my favorite show at that time.
Cool.
So,
Yeah, I would imagine. Well, let's kind of dive into your first encounter. So,
Okay.
but I want to ask you a few questions so the audience has a really good foundation before you tell your story.
That's
One,
right.
this happened on your family farm, correct?
I was on my grandfather's farm.
Right. Okay. So you didn't live there. You were visiting, hunting, or something.
My parents at that time they worked in Nashville.
Okay.
And I stayed with, well, not at the time of the incident, but I lived
Right.
with my grandparents until I was probably 5 or 6.
Okay. Okay.
Pretty much stayed with them all the time.
So you were close. You were very close.
Oh,
with
really
your
close to my
grandparents.
grandparents. Very close, yeah.
So it was like a second home to you, for sure.
No doubt. Yeah, I was
Okay.
there through most of the summers growing up, and my grandfather worked us to death in the fields. So
Yep,
with
yep.
tobacco and hay and whatever else, fence posts, whatever he needed us to do.
But what a great life, actually. I bet you have no regrets growing up on a farm.
Oh no, I'm still a farm boy, but
Good.
if I had my choice, that's where I'd be right now. But you kind of get used to that type of life, and it kind of gets in your blood in a way, because that's really the only place you like to live is out in the country.
Yeah.
So,
So what were you doing the day that you visited? The day you saw your
well,
creature?
every year this actually happened in 1992 when I had my first encounter. Me and 3 of my friends every year for quite a while went to my grandfather's place. We would go up there on opening week of black powder season, which is opening of deer season, black powder. And, we would go up there, take my camper out of camper. We'd pull up at my grandfather's barn and hook it up. And we'd take our 4-wheelers. We'd have a couple trucks. We were loaded down with equipment, and we'd go up there and hunt the whole week. So from opening day, which was normally a Saturday, and through the next Sunday, it would last about a week. It was called black powder season. Anybody that deer hunts will know what I'm talking about. But that's what I was doing up there. And we've been going there for probably 3 or 4 years at that time.
Well, let's take a minute. Let's take a minute and explain what black powder season is. Isn't that like the old 50 caliber bullets that they weren't really a bullet.
Correct.
They were a ball, like a musket,
Well,
an old musket.
They actually have several different type of projectiles you can put in there. They make one that's actually rifle that you can put down in the barrel.
Okay.
But it's a single shot. You have to load it with powder, and you have
slow burning powder.
A lot of misfires with those old ones
Yeah.
like we had. But
Yep.
and you had a cap you put on the end, and when you pull the trigger, sometimes you would get a delayed action, and it would go off a couple seconds later. But
it's kind of like the action where it goes kapoo, kapoo.
That's pretty much it. That's correct.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah, okay. So you're not like armed with an AR or anything during this.
Oh no.
So you probably felt pretty defenseless. And I would imagine that were you accurate with that gun, or did you feel really confident you could hit?
Those things it depends on what kind you had. At that time, they really didn't have a lot of them that are as accurate as they are today. But at that time, it was, pretty much you put the powder in, you loaded the shell, and you took a rod and rammed it down in there to tighten it against the firing casing.
Okay.
And then you put your cap on. And I could hit, I would say I was fairly accurate at 50 or 60 yards, but not a whole lot further than that. So it had to be a pretty close-up shot.
And what kind of a projectile did you have in the? barrel?
At that time, I had what was called a Hornady rifle type shelling that you put in the
Okay.
end, and it's rifled. Actually, it has riflings on it, like a
So it
regular.
spins.
Correct.
So,
Yeah,
so it spins
correct.
when it exits the barrel. Okay.
And it was a
So
50 caliber. Yeah.
yeah, that's big, huge. It's massive. Okay, so you're there, you're hunting. Let's go ahead and start right from there. Now,
Well,
I think people.
it's pretty much started off. We got there on a Sunday early, and we set up our equipment, the camper, got our four wheelers out, had a grill, we cooked out and all that, and that was Sunday. And we all had been hunting there, so most of the guys, including myself, already either had a carry stand where they went to and set up, because we had killed deer there just about every year. Everybody got a deer, which at the opening week of muzzleloader, you can only kill buck only, which is an antlered deer, 6-inch horns or bigger. And we pretty much had a pact, if it wasn't, 8 points or bigger, we wouldn't even try to take that deer. But we got set up that day, and everybody went their direction the day before to try to get set up. And we had some stands built in the woods too, in different areas. Now, my grandfather had a large farm, but he also had a lot of neighboring farmers around him, and they didn't mind us going over into their property. And sometimes we did that, but we mostly hunted on his land. But that particular day, I talked to my grandfather, and at that time, I'm thinking he was 92 years old, either 90 or 92, and he lived by himself there. My grandmother lived in town. And I'd asked him, I said, Granddad, I want to get a big deer this time. I'm going after a trophy. Where do you think I should go? And he pointed over from his back porch. It was actually like 3 hollows. When I say a hollow, a pretty deep climb. The first hollow wasn't as steep as the other two, but he pointed over and he said, over those 3 hills, and he pointed to a spot that I could see that he was talking about. And he said, there's an old part of an old mill there, and I was actually born there and raised there, and I haven't been there in years, but that's where I would go. When you cross that 3rd hill, you'll go down and you'll find a creek, follow the creek down, and you'll find the old mill. And actually, his old house was there at that time. It had fallen in. It was a log house. And part of it was standing, one wall, if I remember correctly, and the roof was mostly down, old tin roof. And he said, when you get there, you'll know you're in the right area. He said, that's where I would say the bigger deer are going to be, because nobody goes back in there. So I kind of hit it out that way. And at that particular, since I didn't have a stand over there, I had what was called a climbing stand. And I put it on my back. It kind of mounts like a backpack. And you got a climber, and you've also got the stand. And you actually carry the climber, but you carry the stand is on your back with straps. And I walked over across the barbed wire fence. Well, first of all, going through the back of his property, you went through a gate that went to the between the house, his back porch, and the open field. There's probably 200 yards of nothing but sage grass between there and the first wood line. And I went down that way and crossed the barbed wire fence and started going up the first hill. And I got on up that hill and over the next one and got down over the third one, and I could see the creek. It wasn't a huge creek. It was real wide in one end, but it was more narrow when it got there, maybe 10 foot wide, maybe a little less or a little more. But I walked on down and crossed the creek and found an area where a lot of deer had been. And a buck deer will scrape when it comes rut season, and they'll take their antlers and rub against a tree and leave markings, and found a lot of tracks in a real good spot where they've been rubbing on several trees. And so I walked back across the creek behind me, and this hill or hollow was probably about a 45-degree angle. It was pretty steep. And I found a tree overlooking that creek and put my stand around the tree and the climbing part and the stand itself. And got it set up pretty good where it felt good. And I actually climbed a tree and went up in it and cut a few limbs off with a little fold up saw I had, place to put my binoculars and my extra ammo with a little fanny pack I had. I was getting ready for the next day. So came back down, left the stand there where it was ready to go. Crossed
See,
the
Darrell,
creek.
Darrell, I want to interrupt you. I do. This is important, actually.
Okay.
One of my more important interruptions. I want the audience to listen to the fact he recalls so many of the details. This was a day that this very sincere man remembered well. It was a life-changing day. And I just want to say how sincere that you are, Darrell, and how sincere you sound to me. And I think everybody will agree when they're listening to this story. And we have
I actually, honestly, right now I can feel chills on my arms because I remember that so well. It took me quite a few years to get over that, but
so we'll just go back to the rub. Yeah, the rub. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
that's all right, no problem at all.
Wanted to just tell the audience how sincere I believe you are to be, and the fact that you're recalling so many details. And I'm sure you've told this story a few times, but
I've told it several times over the years. It probably took me. I actually mentioned it the day after it happened, but my friends that was with me, they just started laughing and asked me if I'd had too much to drink the night before, and I said no, I didn't mention anything else about it. Back in that time and day, 30 years ago, you really didn't mention things like that.
No, this was before TV shows. The subject was not popularized yet.
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay, so continue on with your story, Darrell. I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's okay. Anytime. We'll break in anytime. But after I got my stand ready, I crossed the creek again, and there was a tree that was, the branch was probably maybe 10 foot off the ground, and I jumped up and grabbed the end of the branch and pulled it down, and I have what's called a drag rag. Now, a drag rag is what you put around the bottom of your boot, and it has deer scent on it of a doe and estrus, and you take the rag and you put it on the tree limb and you let it go, and it goes up about 10 foot in the air. And what that does, it leaves a scent all down the hollow where they can smell it from a good ways off. And a buck deer will pick up on that if they're in the area normally. Sometimes several of them will. But I let that go and had the rag up and crossed the creek and headed back out and climbed the hollows and went back to my grandfather's house and was ready to hunt the next day. And actually, I stayed in the camper with all my friends. We had a good time. We grilled out that night and played some cards. Just had a good time with a bunch of guys that I'd hunted with for most of my life, and very close friends. The next morning, I told my grandfather we went to sleep that night, went in kind of early, probably 8 o'clock. And because we usually get in the woods way before dark. Way before daylight, because we want to be ready in the right area. And I told my granddad, and he always wakes up about 4 o'clock in the morning. And I said, make sure you come down and wake me up, make sure I'm up. And he did. He woke me up, and I went up to the house with him for a few minutes. And he was actually cooking breakfast that morning. And I can't remember, I grabbed something, not a big breakfast, but I headed on out and headed back behind his house through the gate, through the sage-grass field, crossed the first barbed wire fence, and went up the hillside. And that hill was not nearly as steep as the other ones. And I guess I'd walked just a little ways, and I heard something to my left walking. And I stopped and listened again, and it stopped when I did. And I walked a little further, and I heard it again kind of to the left of me. And when I got to the top of that hill, I didn't hear anything, and I crossed down that one and got to the bottom of that one. And this is pretty steep terrain now. There's a lot of rocks. It's pretty hard to climb, and especially at dark in the morning, and I didn't know the area that well. And there was another barbed wire fence I had to cross at the bottom of that one, which was an old fence that hadn't been used in a while. Crossed that one, and I heard something walking again. It was more up toward the top of the first hill I'd come down. And I stopped and listened, and I shined my flashlight up in that area, and I heard it walk again and shined it and didn't see anything. Well, my first thought was, well, there's another hunter in here. Um, I knew that none of my guys were in there because I knew the areas they were in, and we all hunted a good ways from each other.
Right.
And,
For safety.
correct. And
Yep.
pretty much made my way up the last hill, and I got to the top of that one and went down where it kind of sloped in. It made kind of a cut. I remember that real well. And then I found the creek. And when I found the creek, I followed it all the way around to where my stand was. And I'd heard that walking again right before I got to my stand. I actually heard it a couple times, and it was pretty loud. It sounded like somebody just dragging their feet in the leaves. At this time of year, all the leaves are mainly off the trees except for the big oak trees, and those still have some leaves on them. So I got to my stand, and I would be honest with you, I was a little nervous because I was thinking, I don't know what this is in here with me. Thinking of a person's what I was thinking, but never seen anything. But I got up in my stand, and it takes a little bit to climb a stand up a tree.
Could you tell us what time of day it is now? It's early in the morning.
It's, it gets, I'm saying it probably got daylight about 6:15, 6:30, so it's before then. It's a good 45-minute to an hour walk to where I had to go. So, and I'd
it's still dark, so it's still pretty dark.
Oh, it's pitch dark. You can't see anything. I mean, you can't see.
And just so everybody knows, this is in Tennessee.
This is in Cannon County, Tennessee.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
I went on, got my stand, and it takes a little bit to get it up because a lot of times your stand will slip a little bit on the tree if you don't get it embedded in. It's got like teeth on it, and it digs into the tree as you climb up. Your weight pushes the blades of the climber into the tree, and you keep going up. And I got up. I'm saying I was probably about 25 foot up, and I'm overlooking the creek. And that particular area I'm overlooking is kind of a cleared area. It's not clear. There's a lot of grass in there and a lot of old fall downs and lay down trees and stuff, but clear enough to where you could see. And there was a game trail on the other side, right? You could see it pretty frequently had been used where I'd hung the drag rag. There was like a little game trail right on the top of the bank of the other side of the creek where I'd found a lot of tracks and the scrapes and everything over there. And I got up in my tree and I got situated, and I have that particular stand that I had a little bar in front of it you could let down. And what happens, it drops down like a camo cover out of it, and it covers your feet and your boots, and it covers you from about halfway up your waist. And I always put blackout under my eyes when I went because a lot of times the sun will reflect off your skin and the deer can see that. But I'm pretty much sat in the tree, and it was real quiet that morning. And I heard that movement a few more times, but then it stopped and I didn't hear any more of it. Didn't really think anything else about it. Now let me try to explain the way this looked there. When I'm looking out over toward in the area, I can't see it yet, but I know I can see the rag hanging in the tree when the sunlight comes up. To my left, there's a large cane thicket. And when I say cane, this is tall green cane like grows on the river or creek bank. And it's 10, 15 foot high in spots. It's a whole bunch of real thick cane, and it's all to the left of me on the creek bank, right on the other side of the little cut that I'd come through. This cane is so thick you can't see anything in it, but it's a good cover for anything to hide in. And I sit there for quite a while and didn't really hear much that morning. I don't recall hearing really any animals. I seemed like I thought I'd heard a squirrel or something in the leaves, but I don't recall seeing anything that morning. It was very unusually quiet. And I sat there and I watched the sun come up. There was a lot of fog in the bottom that morning around the creek, and it probably dissipated pretty good, around 7:30, close to 8 in that area. And right about that time, 3 deer came out of that close somewhere in that around that cane thicket. I seen the first one come out, walk through the creek, go up the bank, and walk down the little game trail and just start milling around. All three of them. They were all doe. There were no bucks. And they were just taking their nose and kind of rambling through the leaves like they do, looking for acorns or whatever they're trying to eat. And I watched those deer for, I don't know how long exactly, probably a good 30, 40 minutes. Maybe not quite 40 minutes, but, I'm watching them thinking a buck would be in after them pretty soon. And I watch them, and then all of a sudden, the lead deer, when I call it the lead deer, the bigger deer was in front, and the other two deer were kind of to the left and right of this deer. And the lead deer stuck its nose up and ears, and all of a sudden, I thought it was maybe smelling the drag rag, but it was looking toward the cane thicket. And I'm thinking immediately, well, there's a buck about to come out of here, a big one, and I'm be ready to get him. So I've got my muzzle loader or my black powder rifle leaning against this bar in front of me, and I've got my hands on it, ready to lift it up. And about that time, the lead deer made a snort real loud, turned to the right, and all three of them took off running like somebody had just scared them to death, shot at them or something. I've seen deer do that before. They get spooked and they'll run, but not quite like this. They were like just full gone to the right. And I watched them pretty much disappear out of sight. And I'm thinking, well, there's a big buck coming out of this somewhere on the other side of this cane thicket because I couldn't see the other side. It was too tall. The cane was, and the angle I was on, that about 45-degree angle, it kind of put me almost over the creek, but not really. It was just the slant of it. And I sat there a minute or two, and I'm thinking, well, I didn't hear anything. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I seen the cane thicket moving. The tops of it was moving like something big was in there, and it was actually kind of waving. And
do you think it was moving the cane thickets on purpose?
I
Or do you
think
think it was accidental?
I think it was so large that it couldn't actually get through it, and it was just pushing it out of the way as it was coming through.
Okay.
And this cane thicket would start swaying the tops. I could see the top pieces moving, and I could see it. I could actually see something coming through it by the way the direction of the cane was moving. And then this thing stepped out, and I was completely in disbelief. I kept looking at it, thinking, is that a person? And is it a man? And it takes just one large leap and jumps clean across the creek. One leap, maybe.
How far? How far did it leap?
I didn't have a measuring tape or anything,
Just
but
a guess.
I'm just guessing 10 foot, and it jumped and landed on the other side of the creek, right on that game trail.
Jeez.
And by this time, I was like, am I really seeing this? And, I'd heard about Bigfoot all my life, but I don't say that I didn't believe in them because I think I did, but I thought they were all out west in the Pacific Northwest or north, in Canada, that area. And then it took a step onto the trail there and walked right down the trail. It stopped, turned, and looked right at me in the tree. It knew exactly where I was at. Probably had watched me go up the tree. And when it looked at me, I really still feel it now. I'm not scared easy by anything, and I've never had that kind of fear in my life. This was the meanest, ugliest looking thing I've ever seen. And it looked at me, it showed me its teeth. Now, when it showed me its teeth, I really thought this thing is going to jump the creek, come up this tree, and just pull me out because it didn't look happy. and I didn't really know what to do because you got one shot with a 50 caliber muzzle
Yeah.
loader, and I surely didn't think that was going to kill this
And
thing. So,
how long would it have taken you to reload if you would have shot?
I mean, I was pretty good with reloading, but a good, if at my fastest time, maybe 15, 20 seconds.
Yeah, that's
but,
quick.
But
Do you think you could have done that 15, 20 seconds given, you must have been terrified.
Well, as nervous as I was, and I had my fanny pack to the right of me above my right shoulder, and it was hanging on a limb up there that I cut off, and it had all my reloads in it with my powder horns, and it had my bullets, the Hornadies in it, and then I had my little caps that you have to grab a hold of. They're real small, and they go on the tip of the firing pin, and that takes a little time. I did a lot of practice. So I could. Like I said, as nervous as I was, I don't know that I could have reloaded. But
but can you right now? So this thing's looking at you right now. It's staring you down. Describe a little bit more of what it looked like. I mean, you were how many yards away exactly?
I'm guessing maybe, I don't think it was yards. I'm thinking maybe 60, 70 feet.
Okay.
But I'm looking down on it.
That's pretty close.
Because I'm on an angle, a 45-degree angle. And I'm kind
so you can almost see the top of its head?
Oh, I can see it really well. Yeah,
okay.
it looked like it was all black, nothing but black. Its face looked like leather, like a black leather. Its eyes weren't red or any weird color like I've heard over the years. And I've seen quite a few forest people and Bigfoot since then, and it just had black eyes. And after this was probably a lot shorter than it seemed, but it seemed like forever, because when this thing showed me its teeth, maybe 10 seconds later, it growled at me, and I can't even tell you what that growl felt like. It was really intense. I mean, I felt it in my body, even though it wasn't close enough to feel it. It was pretty terrifying. And like I said, I don't scare very easy. I've camped in those woods many a night by myself growing up, but not that far in, but never seen anything like that. But,
when it growled at you, is there an animal you could prescribe that would be, similar? Is it a tiger? A lion? Is it?
To be honest with you, I've really never heard anything growl like that.
Okay.
It's more of a guttural type growl, but it's like a mad growl, like angry, and that's the way I can explain it. But it was the most terrifying moment of my life. I didn't even know I had that type of fear in me, because I was literally frozen. I couldn't hardly even move. I didn't know where to take the gun and shoot it or what to do. So I decided not to fire, because I was afraid if I did hit it, that it wouldn't kill it. And then it was coming after me for sure. So,
So can you so it's still at this point, I'm trying to stay at this moment. Was it massive in size? Was it super tall, super bulky?
No, it wasn't. It was, I didn't know, after this happened, I did a lot of research. I went to the library because I didn't really know anything about Bigfoot. The one I'd seen was, of course, Patty, and it looked nothing like that. But, it was 8 foot tall at the most. And the reason why I judge that, because I'm 6'5", and that tree limb was easy 8 foot. From my head before I pulled it down.
Have you ever had it drawn? Any artist ever tried to draw it for you?
The closest thing that I've seen of that particular creature was when I started going to the library, and there were like, if I remember, there were like 10 different types that they had in a book there of Bigfoot, and it was. And when I got to the pictures, it was definitely the top 2, which they listed as a wood booger. So it was
Alex,
no doubt.
Can you find something on the internet, Alex,
Yeah.
Oh, Darrell's describing the story as a type 2 Bigfoot. I've heard these, there's different descriptions. By the way, before I forget, Larry Batson has offered to have you on his show and draw the creature live with
Oh,
you.
it'd be awesome.
So Larry Batson has reached out to me to reach out to you.
Well, thank you very much.
So we got to get you hooked up with Larry.
I've
Love
got the
this.
picture of that on my phone, but of course not here where I'm able to send it to you. I
Right.
kept a picture
No,
of
it's
it, but
fine.
it was
So
anyway.
what would be the difference between a type 2 and a patty?
Well, I'm not an expert at anything. I've
No.
just learned over the years from my own experiences. The other two Bigfoot that I've seen in my lifetime were more like the type 3, which is more similar to the patty looking type Bigfoot. And the other one, by the pictures, is what I'm judging this by, because I don't really know what the actual. Um, no, it's not it at all. It's more like the patty looking.
Yeah,
type
that's
there.
more like
But,
patty.
this
So-
thing is really mean looking. Its face looks deformed almost, but it's not.
Okay.
It's just hard to explain. I do have a picture.
A little
but-
more monstrous looking.
Yeah, it's nothing like I would have dreamed would ever been in the woods. So,
Gosh.
anyway, to get into where I was going here, I don't want to leave this part out. This creature walks over now. No, that's not it either. But sorry, but
right.
this creature walks over to the drag rag that I have in the tree limb, and it reaches up, pulls it down, smells of it, and then just rips the whole limb completely out of the tree.
Hmm.
And now this is not a big, huge limb. It's probably 3 or 4 inches at the base where it went into the tree. It had a lot of leaves on it. It was an oak tree, but it still takes pretty good strength to rip that out. And it just dropped it threw it on the ground. And then it just turns and looks at me and lets out the most unbelievable roaring scream that I still feel right now. I'm honest. It just gives me chills thinking about it. Took me a long time to get over this anyway, because I had nightmares for a long time about this thing. And when that scream just echoed down the entire hollow, and I thought, well, I guess this is it. It's going to come over here and get me now. So by this time, I was trying to plan something. I didn't know where to jump and run, or I done gave up on the option of firing on it. So, I sat there for a little longer, and then it just looked at me and turned and walked straight back into the brush and walked away. Of course, I was completely, I almost call it like being in shock. I mean, I was just a nervous wreck. I didn't even believe that anything like this existed. So I jumped out of the top of the tree stand. I didn't use my climber. I jumped, and I landed in the leaves below.
How many feet did you drop?
It's probably 25 feet.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
And I jumped out of the top of the tree stand. I left the bar down and just jumped.
Jeez.
And slid all down. And when I landed in the leaves. I slid all the way down that bank and slid right into the creek.
Oh,
And
jeez.
I still had my gun in my hand above my head, and turned into the bank, top of the bank of the creek, and took off running as fast as I could run, and run around back up the side of that hill, and found that cut and went through it because it was a little less steep, and got to the top of the hill. And when I got to the top of the hill, I was so out of breath, I had to catch my breath for a minute. I was looking back the whole time to make sure that it wasn't following me, and I didn't see it. So I started going down that hill, and right about the time I can't remember if I was all the way up on the hill or close to the top of the second, I looked back, and it was standing there on top of the hill I'd just come down. Now, I don't know if it was that particular one, but it was one that looked like it. And it was standing there just looking at me. And that even gave me more fear. So I didn't look back. I ran up to the top of that hill. I made it down to the last hill and had to cross I had to cross two barbed wire fences in between the bottom of the last hill. And I was coming down so fast off of that hill, I tried to jump the fence, barbed wire fence, and it was a fairly new fence because my grandfather had that one to keep his cattle in. And when I jumped the top of that fence, my pants leg caught and just ripped it all the way to the top of my knee and cut a big gash in it. But I didn't even feel that. I pretty much got to the sage grass and ran as fast as I could through the sage grass, stopping to look behind me the whole entire time, and I didn't see it again. And when I got to the gate that went to the backyard of my grandfather's house, I opened it and locked it and ran into the back door of my grandfather's house and locked the door and looked out the window and didn't see anything or nothing after me or following me. So ran into my grandfather. When you go through the back door, that was his kitchen, and to the right went to his living room, and he had a big pot-bellied stove in the corner of his house there, kind of in the middle, between the corner and the middle. And I ran in and just sat down in the corner over there and got up and looked out the window a couple of times, and my grandfather's sitting there in his rocking chair, and he looked at me. My grandfather never called me by my name my whole life. He called me boy. And he said, "Boy, what's wrong with you?" And I couldn't hardly talk, and I was out of breath still. And he says, "You're white as a ghost." And I said, I don't know what I seen, but I seen a monster of some kind down in those woods. And he said, "A monster?" And I said, "Yeah, it was like nothing I'd ever seen." And he said, "Well, you seen a wood booger?" And I said, "A wood booger? What is a wood booger?" He says, "Oh, they're around here."
Just
That
totally
matter of fact.
matter of fact, yeah.
Yeah, just like nothing. And I said, "Well, why didn't you ever tell me about it? Why didn't you ever tell me about these things?" And he
That would have
said,
been my next question.
he said, "Well, if I'd have told you about them, you would have never hunted in the woods and spent the night in the woods and been your normal self and had a good time sleeping in the hayloft and all that." And that still wasn't a good enough answer for me. So I said, "Well, what is a wood booger?" He goes, "Well, I've been around here all my life. I've seen 4 in my lifetime, and I've heard a lot more of them." And I said, "These things live in these woods, and I have never seen one." He goes, "Well, you have to go pretty far in a lot of times because they stay away." He said, "They won't hurt you. You were in his territory, and you probably messed up his hunt." And I said, "Okay." I was still shook pretty bad, and I kept looking out the window and the back door. And he said, "Well, it's not going to come up here. It's done run you off." And it was like nonchalant to him, but it sure wasn't to me. So
That's incredible.
he got into the story. He says, "Oh yeah, in the wintertime," he says, "they come to the hen house." And my grandfather had an old log hen house that his grandmother and grandfather had built, and he had probably 40 or 50 chickens in it, and had a little small door. And he said, "In the wintertime, they'll come and take sometimes 3 or 4 chickens, and they'll leave a little pile of sticks and rocks like they're paying for it." I said, "What?" And he said, "Yeah, they do that." He says, "They've never bothered me, and I've been working in the fields, and I've heard them, and I've seen them, but they don't bother you. Just stay out of their territory. They're very territorial." So,
Yeah, he was beyond matter of fact.
especially at 92 years old, I believe he was at that
Yeah.
time. But
Yeah, and he didn't sound like he had any time for any BS.
no, he was pretty straightforward. My grandfather was. He's very strict with rules and believed in hard work, and you respected him pretty quick when you were around him. But
So what questions did you ask him? Was that the end of it? Because
that was pretty much. I mean, I was pretty much just shook up. It took me a good while. I remember sitting there on his couch. I got up and I was just like, I was actually shaking like I've never been that scared before.
Jeez.
But it pretty much was the most scared I've ever been in my life. I've never felt it. I didn't know I had fear in me like that, but I did, and you know, I went out to see my friends. I heard them come in. They were all hunting in different areas, and you know, I tried to get myself together, and I went out there. It was probably, you know, 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock by the time they all started coming in. And one of them had got a deer, and they had it hanging in the tree. They were skinning it out, and the other guy, my other buddies were helping him. And I went out there, and we had lounge chairs sitting around the camper, and I just sat down in the lounge chair. I was just, I wasn't even concerned about the deer. You know, I was just sitting there trying to put myself together, and a friend of mine named Scott and Cody come over and says, "You all right, Big?" Everybody calls me Big D. I've been called Big D all my life. And hey, Big D, you okay? And I said, "Yeah, I'm fine." They said, "Did you see anything?" And I said, "Not well, not really." And I asked them. I said, "You know, Jason, my other friend, was skinning the deer out," and I said, "Guys, we've been hunting here 3 or 4 years, and have y'all ever seen anything in the woods, like something huge, big out in the woods?" And they said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Maybe like a Bigfoot." And they all started laughing. And they said, "Man, you didn't have too much to drink last night, did you?" I said, "No, actually, I didn't drink anything." But I didn't say anything else about it. I just kind of kept it quiet. But they went ahead and hunted the next 2 days, and everybody got a deer but me. I stayed in the house with my grandfather. I didn't even stay in the camper. But I didn't come out of the house for just to visit them for several days. But
Crazy. Well,
definitely
but by the way, before we get too far down the road, David Ellis sent a clip, Alex, of a growl. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I'm looking for it.
Oh, okay.
Check my email.
So we're gonna play a clip for you, and maybe you can go, "Yeah, that's close," or nothing like it. Can you still kind of hear it today? The growl?
I can feel it right now. I can feel
Okay.
I can feel every time I tell this story, I get kind of like the hair on my arms stand up. I don't know why it still does it, but it does.
And how did you sleep that night?
No, I didn't sleep. No, I just laid in my grandfather he had a big feather bed in the back room, and I stayed in that room. And I had my gun in there with me, and I had it in the corner, and he slept fine, but I didn't sleep at all. But it was on my mind. Every time I went to sleep, I was having dreams about it, or I could see it like it was right at me. And it was definitely life-changing. I never thought I'd ever see anything like that, but I did. And
especially such an ugly one.
All right, so
it's terrible.
I got the audio, guys.
Okay.
So here's what David Ellis sent.
Now keep in mind that's looped.
Yeah, it's a lot deeper than that.
A lot deeper.
A lot deeper. It was like a growl from your inside. It's hard to explain. I've never heard
a lot more
bass.
A lot more
bass.
bass.
More bass. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And coming from you, Darrell, that must mean something.
You have one of the lower voices that we've heard.
Well, I've never had an encounter like that again, thank goodness. But that was about as bad as it got. So, you know, I was young then too, and you know, hunted there all my life, but never dreamed anything like that lived there.
So what type
I've actually never been back. My tree stand's still there unless it tore it out or.
Oh, jeez.
But that's still that same spot, I guess.
So what type of clothing were you wearing? What color? Were you wearing camouflage?
I was wearing camo. Yeah, I had a camo pair of overalls that I wore with zippers in it, and I had a long camo T-shirt, and I also had a coat. It wasn't real cold that morning.
You did not have blaze orange on?
I had a blaze orange hat.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I had a blaze orange hat.
That's interesting.
It's pretty much you have to wear orange when you go in the woods during deer season. But being on my grandfather's property, there wasn't supposed to be anybody there but us. And I'd never seen anybody deer hunting there before. But and as far as I know, my grandfather, of course, has passed now and sold that. But it was definitely life changing. My life has never been the same since then. So,
Did you ever have a warm, like more detailed conversation, with your grandfather about the creatures?
we talked about it quite a bit over the years. Yeah, he passed away about 4 years after that. Um, he pretty much told me that there were those things had lived there all his life. He even told me a story about his uncle. And when he was actually living in the old house where I was hunting above that had fallen in when he was a little boy, I think my grandfather was born in 1900, and he had a couple brothers, and they were a little older than him. But this wasn't a very big house. It was just an old country homestead house. And he told me his uncle had went squirrel hunting one time, and he had got chased out of the woods by one of these things, and it chased him all the way to the house. And these old houses they had cracks in the walls and everything. And he said they all got in a big huddle and stayed all together next to the fireplace in the house and looked through the cracks of the walls, and they could see the creature walking around the house all night long, but it didn't try to get in and get them. But
Did your grandfather describe it as an ugly thing like you saw too?
yeah, he really did describe it. I told him what it looked like, and he said, "Yep, that was a wood booger." That's pretty much where he left it. He said that he had, like I said, he'd seen 4 in his lifetime, but he didn't really go into detail about a lot about them. Just they didn't really bother him.
Sharp teeth, dull, blocky teeth, flat.
Regular teeth. It
Flat.
wasn't any fangs or anything that I could see. No, it was just regular block teeth. They were real stained, of course, but it was. I wish I had that picture, because that picture describes it better than anything that I've seen. That I would be glad to shown you that before the show.
Well, you could maybe email it to Alex. You could send it to Alex at Untold Radio. You
Yeah,
could
I'll
take
do
a
that.
moment.
Yeah,
You could
I
do
don't
it.
know if I can. I don't know if I can pull it up here or not. I might. Be
Yeah, if
able
you can
to.
find it.
Um,
I'll just ask you a few questions while you're looking for it.
sure, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, it'd be cool. So when you guys talked about it, did he have an encounter that scared him off too, or he left the area, or did the creature leave the area? Did he get, what I mean? I'm just
No,
curious.
he never had an encounter except when he was a little boy, when one followed his uncle home. But no, he never had anything like I had. He said he would be working in the field, and he would look up, and one would be standing, 50 to 100 yards from him, just watching him. But no, one never, got irritated or upset at him.
Okay.
They were more like just watching him or be on his farm area.
Yeah.
But no, nothing like what I went through. But he was pretty much telling me that they were more territorial, and if you stay out of their area, they won't bother you. So, that was pretty much, we talked about it, and a lot of times, after that, but not really in detail much about it. It really didn't seem to bother him. It was like he was more used to them being there, and he respected their territory, and they respected him. Never tried to harm him. But I had asked. My mother grew up on that farm, and she had never seen one. And they're still not huge believers of this thing, but I don't know how to email it to you. But there.
Okay, sure, I see it.
That's the picture
Sure,
right
we
there.
can see it.
That's about as close as I can get to it.
Very
Except
primitive looking.
it did not have red eyes, though. They were regular white eyes with black centers.
But it's more of a primitive looking creature.
Yeah, it was. I don't know what you call it, but it's nothing like I'd ever seen. And never thought I would. When I was a little boy, my grandmother, I had a lot of cousins that stayed with my grandparents, and she would always tell us, don't go in the woods at night because the boogeyman will get you. Well, my granddad said that was the boogeyman. So none of my other cousins ever had any occurrences with them that I'm aware of.
Crazy. Yep, the boogeyman, short for booger.
It definitely is.
The
It's
boogeyman.
not anything you want to run into out in the woods.
So then you had another encounter later on, a number of years later.
Well, I
You
really
wanna-
didn't. That I wasn't researching. I want to make that clear because
Okay.
I didn't even hunt anymore. I didn't deer hunt or go in the woods at all. What deer hunting I did do was me and a buddy would set my truck at a spot we had or something, but we didn't. I didn't go in the woods, and I didn't tell everybody, but I didn't want to go in the woods anymore. But took me a long time to really get over that, and I was really shook up about it. The first year was really rough. It got a little better as time went on, but how my second encounter happened was just pure accident because a place that I fish on the Cumberland River there in Tennessee. It's kind of a growed up area, pretty remote out in that area too. Not nearly as well. I'd probably about as remote as where my grandfather's place was because there's no houses even close to each other. They're way out. But this particular area I've been fishing on forever. Went down. There's an old sewer plant there, and I knew the people that ran that. The guys that worked there, and they let me park my truck down or my car down next to the back of it. And there was not everybody fished down there because it was kind of a private area. You couldn't go down there unless you'd go through the gate at the end of that plant. And I went through this gate and I walked down this path that went into the woods, and it was pretty thick, but you could walk through there with your gear. It's probably 200 yards in, and you come to a river bank, and it's kind of a mud slope bank, um, pretty slope there. But you could walk down on the bottom of that mud bank, and there was a sandbar that went out into the river. And when you caught a fish, you would have to go down to the sandbar. If you didn't, the fish would get caught in the roots hanging out of the bank that was on top. And that particular encounter took me 2 or 3 trips before I figured out what it was. And I was fishing down there one day by myself. I went down there and I fished there a lot by myself because I've been fishing there since I was 13, 14 years old and never had nothing happened. I mean, there was wildlife around, but regular type animals, foxes, raccoons, squirrels, that type of thing. But I was fishing and I caught a fish and I walked down the bank to that little sandbar there and drill the fish in where it wouldn't get hung up on the roots. And I came back up to I had actually a round bucket that I sat on because I carried my gear in it, kind of like a 5-gallon bucket. And came back up and I had a minnow bucket that was set next to it because we use minnows down there. And I went to get my minnow bucket and my minnow bucket was gone. And I couldn't find my minnow bucket. I looked around for it everywhere and I didn't see it anywhere. Didn't know what had happened to it. And thought it was kind of strange how my minnow bucket would disappear. And I started thinking, well, somebody's in here playing a joke on me. One of my friends has fished with me. But I couldn't find my minnow bucket. Looked around, never did. So I left, didn't have any bait, and went on back to my vehicle and went home. It was probably maybe a week later. I went back with another minnow bucket. Went down to the same spot and this time it rained and water was kind of up and you couldn't get to this exact spot. The water was kind of high and I had to go on down a little further and to a different bank. And you had to pretty much go to the edge to reel the fish in if you caught one there. And I'd caught 2 or 3 fish and came back to my minnow bucket, and my minnow bucket was gone again. So I'm starting to think, well,
no way. Okay, so you're out 2 minnow buckets at this point.
Correct.
That's insane.
And this was a day when a storm was starting to blow in. It hadn't really quit raining, and the water was high at the river. And I'm thinking the wind was blowing, a storm was coming in. Maybe the wind blew it off in the river. Of course, the styrofoam minnow bucket's not going to sink, but I didn't see it anywhere in the river or around the bank or anything else. By this time, I'm pretty much convinced that one of my friends that has fished with me down there is playing a joke on me because my minnow bucket's gone again. So,
But in hindsight, you're thinking the Bigfoot's taking these things now.
no, I had no idea it was a Bigfoot.
No, I
idea
know,
whatsoever.
but now you've probably connected the dots. I think it was.
I was well at that particular time. I really thought it was somebody in there because this is a real thick area with a lot of vines, and you
Okay.
could hide just about anywhere. And the trail went way on down the side of this river, and it was basically a game trail that you walked down to fish. And so I thought maybe the storm coming in, the wind might have blown the bucket somewhere. But I was in my mind, I'm thinking this is a little strange. I've lost 2 minnow buckets. And, so if the storm was coming, I went on back to my vehicle and got my fishing gear and headed back. So I was probably a week to 10 days later. This time I've already pre-thought the plan. So I've got maybe 10 or 12 foot, maybe a little longer string, a pretty thick string, and I tied it to the metal handle that you carried the minnow bucket to, and I tied it around the tree where if my minnow bucket was going to get away, I wasn't going to get away too easy because I had it tied off. So
Okay, so you're worried about a third one going missing.
this is the third one. Yeah,
Oh, jeez.
by this time I thought that it was somebody playing a joke on me, but anyway, I got down, got set up, and I'm back at my original spot. The water's down again, and I'm fishing. I'd been there a couple hours, and I caught quite a few fish. And I go down to the little sandbar to reel a fish in and come back up. The minnow bucket's gone, but this time it's a string tied to it. And the minnow bucket, I go up to look, and the minnow bucket's pulled all the way down deeper into the path where the thick forage was of the vines, and the water's all splashed out of it, and the bucket is tight with the string where they pulled it as far as they could. And I noticed it. I said, okay, I'm going to catch this person this time. And I had actually brought my shotgun with me. I had my shotgun, a 410 single shot, and I picked my gun up, walked over toward the bushes, and I looked, and on the trail where this water had splashed out, there was a footprint. And it was a barefoot print, barefooted type footprint, human looking. And I seen that, and I started looking down through the vines, and you had to stoop down kind of low to get down in there, down around to the trail before it opened up again. And walked down in there, and I seen more tracks, more of these footprints, and it was muddy right there, real muddy. And they had one off into the vines and down the trail a little ways. And as I'm doing that, I see my other minnow bucket that I'd lost, or one like it, over in the bushes. And I look to the left, and there's another minnow bucket that I'm thinking, well, there's both my minnow buckets, and here they are. And I look up, and I hear something moving in the bush over there, and I don't know exactly how far down it was. It was probably 70 yards, I'm guessing, maybe a little more. And I see this creature leaning over like this, looking around a tree at me. And I went, this can't be a Bigfoot. But I knew it was. And it looked at me, and it swayed back and forth 3 or 4 times, and then it took off. Well, the funny thing about it was, when I went to get my minnow bucket to fish some more, I didn't know where I wanted to leave or what to do, really, because I start thinking again what had happened in my first encounter. This was a whole different looking creature. It looked
what type of minnows were they?
just regular minnows that you buy to
Small?
Yeah, they weren't. Well, they were probably 2.5 inches long. They were what we call medium minnows.
Okay.
And the funny thing about it was, when I got my bucket, I was making my mind up. Well, after I'd done seen what I seen, I decided I didn't care to fish anymore. But
were you in shock?
I looked into my bucket, and they left me 1 minnow.
1 minnow?
They had took all the other minnows and whatever they done with them, or they ate them, or whatever they done with them, they left me 1 minnow.
So they
Well,
got
I'm
a
sure
sense
they
of
weren't
humor.
fishing with them. I, would
They got a
imagine
sense
they
of
ate
humor.
them. I would
No, I
imagine they ate
don't
them.
think they were, but I was a little bit alarmed. I didn't. I was kind of frightened about it because I thought, I'm not looking to bother these things, and I never knew they were down here either. But this creature looked nothing like the wood booger. It looked more, and it was not a big one. It was a little one. I'm guessing maybe 4 or 5 foot tall. Um, but it looked more like the regular type Bigfoot, which I call like a type 3, the patty looking one, that type head and body, that type head and face. I couldn't
Okay.
see the body real good, but I could see the head and shoulders and the hand. And I didn't get to see it long because it ran off in the bush area where I couldn't see it.
Jeez.
But I had my shotgun, so I was kind of nervous. I didn't know where I wanted to be there. So I left, got all my stuff and left. Um, Kind of got to thinking about them and thought about it for probably a week or two before I went back down there. Part of me said, don't go back. Part of me said, do go back. And so I decided to go. So again, I carried my gun, my fishing equipment, went down there and fished. And while I was fishing the whole time, I really wasn't doing a lot of fishing. I was looking down the trail. I was kind of trying to make them think I wasn't looking that way, but I was. And I seen one of them look out, and it looked at me and kind of bent over like it did before. And then I seen another one on the other side kind of do the same thing. And they weren't anything like the other one, the other creature that I had seen. So I kind of released a little fear in me. I didn't really fear these creatures like I did the first one. They didn't seem to be aggressive like that one. And I kind of got kind of comfortable about it. And I started going down there. I went down there for a good year or longer. And I would bring them cantaloupes and different type things. And I made a little wood box out of some plywood and boards. And I put it up in a little tree there that was probably 6 or 7 foot off the ground where the regular animals wouldn't get it.
Okay. And what year was this again?
This was, this all started about 7 or 8 years after my first encounter. So it was probably about 99, probably right around there.
Yeah, but this is before anybody really even talked about gifting.
Oh, yeah.
Was it?
I didn't know anything about gifts.
Right.
But they were eating my minnows. So I thought, well, maybe I'll take them something to eat.
Why
So,
didn't you bring them minnows? Just
probably because they were too expensive at that time. And I was still a young guy. I wanted to fish with the minnows and let them eat.
How old were you at that time?
I don't remember how old I was. I was in my late 20s anyway.
Okay.
Maybe. But anyway, I pretty much kind of befriended those.
Jeez.
I never seen more than 3 of them. There were a lot more in there. I could hear them, but I didn't see them. But I never seen a big one. The biggest one I seen was probably about 5 foot tall. But I brought stuff for them to eat down there, and they would take it. And they would leave me gifts. I kind of like befriended them. And one of them did show himself to me pretty good, but he never got real close, maybe 50 foot away. He was a little one too, probably a juvenile from about what I know now about these. These are what I call the forest people. I think there's a lot of different type of Bigfoot. I think there are friendly ones. I think some of them aren't friendly, but this particular group, actually the funniest thing I did, because I got feeling so comfortable with them, I didn't even bring a gun anymore. I didn't even fish. I just went down there to see them, and I would leave them things. And I went to a store and I bought a bag of plastic whistles, uh, and just to see how intelligent they were. And these little whistles were plastic and they had little black strings on them, maybe about, I don't know, 6 inches long, tied in a knot where you could hold them up. And I hung those on tree limbs all around that area. And I don't believe I seen them that day. I heard them, but I didn't see them. And I left them, and I left them some fruit and a few other things. And I left, and I started coming back about as often as I could, at least 2 or 3 times a week, because it wasn't very far from my home.
Wow. Okay.
And I went in there one morning early. When I say early, it was 7 or 8 o'clock. And when I walked in, when I started walking in, uh, I heard these whistles blowing. And it was the
Oh my God.
craziest thing I've ever seen. I could hear one way
Okay,
down.
everybody, that's the end of our show. Goodbye.
Well, it's true, but
That's crazy.
I
Okay.
heard the whistle blowing. Of course, I couldn't see them blowing the whistle, but they were in the thick cover. And then I heard one blowing clean across the river, a
Jeez.
whistle blowing. There were like 2 or 3 or 4 of them going, and then they'd stop, and they would hear me. And I would yell at them and saying, "Hey, I'm here to see you today." And I could hear them moving around and running through all the brush, but they didn't come out and wave at me or anything. I mean, it wasn't like they trusted me, but not enough to come out and just show themselves regularly. But
So, do you remember the color of those whistles?
yeah, they were red. They were red
Okay.
whistles with a black string on them. Yeah.
Okay.
And I bought them at Elmore 5 and dime, and they were about $1 a bag, and 10 little whistles came in them. And
Jeez.
I just wanted to see if they would use them, and I was shocked how well they did use them. So
That's I'm shocked. I actually am. That's a great story.
but they used them, and I pretty much kind of befriended those. I never got to get real close to them, but they trusted me enough.
This reminds me of the Puff the Magic Dragon story.
But
Crazy.
that was the best thing that probably ever happened in my lifetime, because for the first time, that fear I had in me toward these creatures relieved itself. I felt comfortable with them, not like the first one. And, I pretty much gifted those and went and listened to them and hear them run. And I would actually talk to them through the grass. Say, "I'm here to see you today."
Did you ever hear them vocalizing?
You could hear some grunts and some whoops and stuff like that occasionally, but not real regular. No, I
Okay.
no vocalization.
You never heard any?
No speaking or nothing. No,
Yeah,
nothing like
okay.
that. But
How long did you? I mean, was it just once where they used the whistles?
oh no, I heard them all the time. Oh,
Like
yeah.
for months or
I
weeks?
think that's what happened to them. I really think that's what happened was after. I don't remember the exact time frame, but it was a year and a half anyway. I was gone probably for a week or two and didn't get to go down there. I can't remember exactly what had happened. It may have been work or something, but I went down there to see them, and when I went through the gate, this sewer plant that was operable. It's actually a sewer plant that pretty much handles Nashville metro part of that area, the northern part of it, and it actually filtrates everything and kind of a station there. They had come in since I was gone and bulldozed that whole entire area. There was probably, I don't know how many acres is back in there, but there was a good 4, 5, 6 acres where all that undergrowth was at, and it was all just completely cleared out. You could see bulldozer tracks. They had stakes up with flags on them. They were fixing to.
So the whole area was bulldozed down.
Well, I mean, not on down where the trail went. There was still growth down there, but the part that they actually owned, I guess, I don't know what they actually owned, but and I was real concerned about it, because when I went in there, it was on a Sunday and there was nobody working, but you can still see the equipment sitting around.
Gosh.
And you can see these little stobs like they put up when they're outlining an area with little flags on them. So they were actually building something there for that sewer plant. I don't know what it was, but they were building something, and I got kind of worried about them, and I had actually went down there several times after that and walked way back in there as far as I could go, and I would holler for them and yell for them and sit and wait. Never seen them again.
So what do you think motivated you to keep all this to yourself?
Well, I told several people about it. Some of my friends.
Nobody.
One of my friends actually went with me down there,
Mm.
but after he found out what we were looking at, he got scared and went back to the car. So
Oh,
he said, "I don't want to see those things," and he went back to the car. And the I don't know if after all these years, a lot of times, even in that time frame, I had thought about it, and I really think the whistles is probably what. I don't know if they killed them or I don't know what happened to them, but I know I walked way deep down in there and I never seen them again and I never heard them
gosh.
again. So those whistles blowing might have gotten somebody's attention, the wrong people, and they may have went in and taken them out. I don't know. Never heard anything about it. And of course, you would never hear anything about that anyway. But
So everybody make sure you give all the Bigfoot to your researching noisemakers. Party noisemakers. That's really an insane story, Darrell.
I don't even know how I come up with it. I just thought about it. I thought, wonder if they like these whistles, and I just hung them up on tree limbs, and they liked them. So,
Jeez.
but
You were ahead of your time. That's for damn sure.
I probably just a lot of luck involved. I really felt comfortable with those forest people. I didn't ever.
So why do you call them forest people and not Bigfoots?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Well, this is just my own opinion, not that I'm correct, and I don't say that I am, but I truly believe there are a good Bigfoot, and I call the good ones the forest people.
But physically, they're still completely hair covered.
Yes, they are, but I've done over the years. I've read a lot of stuff, listened to a lot of stuff, and learned a lot of stuff from certain people. And Dr. Matthew Johnson. A lot of people think he's crazy. I don't. At one time, I thought he was, but I think he has. I think he knows a lot more about these creatures than a lot of most people do. And these aren't creatures; these are very intelligent beings, and actually smarter than a lot of people. I truly believe they're very smart. They're elusive. They have special abilities that people won't believe because our minds doesn't wrap around that type thing happening. But they can do special things that we're not able to do or we don't know how to do. But the forest people, in my opinion, are the true Bigfoot, or the forest people, as I call them. The other Bigfoot are different types that are similar, but they're nowhere near the nature like those creatures.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I don't blame you for forming an opinion with all the experiences you've had.
Well, Dr. Matthew Johnson, I don't know if some people know who he is, some people may not, but he believes that the forest people are actually called the Xanu, and that's why you see the X's when you go into the woods in certain areas. That's his personal belief, and I believe that too, but only because my experiences have pretty much panned out to real similar to what Dr. Johnson has spent a lot of time researching, and he's around these creatures a lot. I don't believe everything he does, but I believe a lot that he does, and I think that he's right on with those things. So
had you had any other encounters, Darrell, or is that?
Well, I had several encounters over the years of just being in the deep woods, and I would see one of these creatures. Those were the actually only forest people that I ever seen that I could consider the forest people. I've seen several of them in the woods. Yeah, I mean, I would see them, a distance off, and they would walk away or they disappeared. I don't know where they went. I think some people truly have something in them. I don't know why it is, or if I do, or maybe I'm just thinking that for some reason we have more encounters with these creatures than or these people than other people do. I've got friends that's been hunting 35, 40 years and they've never seen anything. And other people like myself, I'll have numerous encounters or see them I wouldn't say an encounter. I will actually see a Bigfoot in the woods, and it'll be a distance off, or it'll walk away, or I won't see it again. But uh, never had nothing like what I experienced my first time. And
Well, okay, so you run a group, or you're part of a group. Do you want to tell us the group that you're involved in on Facebook?
well, my group is Bigfoot, Bigfoot believers and other creatures.
Okay.
And anybody in my group, if they don't necessarily, they need to believe in Bigfoot. They might not have had an encounter or see one. And pretty fortunate. We're, what I understand, the largest, the fastest growing group in Facebook ever. So,
And so are you looking for a new? I know one thing I think you told me you're looking for new members that have a real positive attitude.
oh yeah, I mean, you're always going to get some people in your group that, and that, the hardest thing about Bigfoot researching is it's changed so much since I really started researching, because there's other things out there, and they may have been out there then, but now you've got dogmen in the same area as Bigfoot. You've got all kinds of other creatures I've heard of. I've never seen an UFO or an alien or anything like that, or even a flying saucer that I'm aware of. But Bigfoot, I have seen numerous ones. The last encounter that I had, that I quit basically researching in 2020, because I still haven't figured out what I did wrong on that one. But I think I think that these things are, their abilities are just like nothing we know. And I have people in my group that post good pictures, and you can see them very easily. And then I have people that have the circles around them, and they look interdimensional, and they're blurry. And I truly do believe these creatures have a way to make their pictures blurry. I know if you go in the woods with a camera and a gun, you're not going to see one. If you do, you got lucky. You just accidentally caught one, because they know what a gun is, and they know what a camera is. They know what, you pull a camera out and you won't see one. But a lot of times I've got some really good researchers in my group that post some good pictures of dogmen and Bigfoot. Some of those are blurry. There are a different type, interdimensional, especially down when you get around Louisiana and that area. A lot of interdimensional ones in that area, it seems to be. And when I say interdimensional, they blend in so well with the foliage that they're really hard to see. And they actually look like they're part of it. But I've never seen one vanish in front of me, but I do believe they cloak, and I do believe they are interdimensional, certain types of, maybe some of them, maybe all of them. But I don't know the answer to that. I'm still learning myself. But I have seen one walk behind a tree, a large tree, very large tree, in the middle of an opening field, and it never came out. Now, where it went, I don't know, but it never came out. And I have no idea where it went. But they have some very strong capabilities that, like I said, our mind doesn't wrap around that type of thing. Mine doesn't. But you have to be open-minded if you're going to be in any Bigfoot group or be involved in anything like that.
Yeah.
Because if you're not going to ever learn anything.
So how can people get a hold of you, Darrell?
We're, like I said, Bigfoot, believers and other creatures. Also, I've got an email that's dealer44@icloud.com.
Okay.
And most anybody in my group, I have so many great researchers in my group, and really great members too. I mean, I feel pretty honored to have Ron Moorhead in my group. My gosh, even my closest friend, Martin Unley, he's in my group. And Martin Groves, one of my other close friends, who had probably the scariest story I've ever heard. We've been friends 40 years. And Martin and I are very close. And Martin Unley and his wife, Letitia. We have so many good researchers in that group. And not just those guys. We have lots of just regular researchers that go out and really work hard. And Kathy Westerman in my group. Oh gosh, we have Jennifer Appleton. I mean, there's so many good ones in my group. I can't even name them all. I'm very blessed to have all those people in the group and sharing what they've seen and what they've experienced. So,
well, very, very cool. And thank you so much for sharing your pretty incredible encounters. And you're obviously a very, very sincere person, Darrell. You're very
well,
impressive.
I appreciate that. I'm just telling it the way I seen it and
Yeah.
what I've seen over the years. You know, I quit researching in 2020, basically because my good friend Billy Howell and I were researching an area in Cheatham County, Tennessee, and those creatures. I only seen the female and the juvenile. Billy seen some 12 foot tall. They were at a friend's of mine's house, and we gifted them for well over, I guess, almost 2 years, and seen a lot of orbs one night. We got sick. A lot of weird things happened, and then my house got terrorized. That's a whole nother story. But
Yeah.
Anyway, I appreciate you having me on. I know it took a lot of time talking here. Thank you.
Yeah, no, we'll have to. I mean, we'll get you back on, Darrell.
Sure, be glad to come
We
back.
want to hear that last part. You're leaving us on a cliffhanger. But Happy New Year to everybody. Happy 2023. Sounds like we're all from the future at this point. So,
It does. Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you very much for having me.
thanks, Alex. We're glad we got all of our technical issues ironed out, and thanks the audience for joining us in chat and our podcast audience. We love you all, and we'll see you next Wednesday.
Good night, everyone.
Yep. Good night.
I call you up in the middle of the night. Been bothered by dreams, ain't feeling alright. You give me comfort, say just give it some time. By the end of our talk, I'm